They called it mercy, an end to mourning, a simple patch that silenced grief at the source. It was wafer-thin, adhesive, transparent, marketed as Neuroluma, and promised what faith, therapy, and chemical sedation never could: peace without forgetting. The commercial showed a mother smiling again, a widower returning to work, soldiers sleeping through the night. "A life unanchored from sorrow," the tagline whispered. People didn't ask what anchored them in the first place. The patch didn't stimulate the brain, it rewrote rhythm. Under the plastic film, microelectrodes rested on temporal skin, beaming pulses across the limbic system. Each pulse intercepted the neural storm of heartbreak, short-circuiting the loop that turned absence into agony. Dr. Mira Lau, the neuroscientist who designed it, called it the world's first emotional pacemaker. Her research began with mourning mice. When partners of pair-bonded rodents died, the survivors emitted high-frequency distress calls. Lau's prototype mask pulsed mild current into the nucleus accumbens. The cries stopped. None of the surviving mice returned to their nests. They wandered peacefully, uninterested in partners or loss. To investors, that read as success. Clinical trials followed with devastating efficiency. A woman who had lost her child reported sleeping 8 hours straight for the first time in 2 years. A miner who had watched coworkers die described quiet hearts. Grief graphs flattened like cardiograms after defibrillation. The agency rushed approval. Pharmacies filled with the slogan, "No more pain after goodbye." But no drug or device kills just one emotion. Within weeks, subjects reported loss of nostalgia, empathy, longing, any feeling that depended on attachment. Love itself flickered like a dying filament. Mira warned regulators. "We stabilized heartbreak the way embalming stabilizes flesh," she said. The metaphor didn't land. Stocks soared, suicide rates plummeted. Wedding vows started to include a clause about removing the patch only with consent. Entire generations forgot the taste of haunting. Then came the marriages that stopped dissolving. Not because they healed, because they froze. Partners no longer loved or hated. They shared houses like museum exhibits, feeding on memory without emotion. Relationships became administrative. Children described their parents as content strangers. Governments purchased industrial quantities for psychological resilience programs. The slogan changed to "Strong Minds for a Fearless Nation." Soldiers patched after combat still followed orders long after PTSD would have stopped them. They no longer flinched at loss. They simply observed it. 5 years later, the first autopsies changed everything. The brains of long-term users showed calcified networks. The limbic tissue turned glassy. Neural pathways fused like cooled metal. Neurologists coined a term: affective crystallization. Emotion no longer flowed, it fossilized. Public relations blamed counterfeit devices. Yet data leaks from Lou's confidential files told a different story. The patch wasn't erasing grief, it was storing it. Each suppressed wave of emotion converted into microcharges within the patch's nanocircuitry, the human nervous system functioning as battery. When discarded devices were dismantled, they hummed faintly as if holding breath. One lab assistant claimed to hear whispers. The company fired him for superstition, but the audio logs later revealed synchronized murmurs matching the user's EEGs. Mira disappeared from conferences. Her last broadcast interview surfaced months later from an independent network. She looked gaunt. "We modeled love as a chemical pattern," she said. "We never realized consciousness sits in chemistry's shadow. You can't amputate sorrow without taking empathy with it." The interview cut midway when she tore the patch from her neck. She collapsed off camera. Shortly after, clusters of decommissioned patches were found emitting low-level electromagnetic fields strong enough to interfere with nearby electronics. In one deserted storage hangar, workers reported a temperature drop and a smell like old rain. Sensors picked up faint neural patterns, millions of small echoes bouncing between them, resonating grief in binary. The company rebranded. The device resurfaced as the Luma Balance. Sold not for trauma but for emotion optimization. Influencers wore it like skincare, advertising serenity instead of therapy. The effect remained. Users spoke softly, slept perfectly, never argued. Entire offices adopted patches during corporate retreats. Productivity skyrocketed. Hospitals noticed another side effect. Patients in intensive care near patched relatives deteriorated faster. Unofficial hypothesis: emotional absence is contagious. By 2043, global demand outstripped supply. Factories in Asia complained about strange malfunctions, finished batches whispering through radio interference, microfilaments spontaneously overcharging. A small town in Guangdong evacuated when pallets of stacked Neuroluma started glowing faint orange. Containment teams reported fields of sound inside their helmets, choruses of voices speaking entire confessions in seconds. None remembered afterward what was said. When authorities sealed the plant, satellite imaging documented faint bioluminescent bands spreading through nearby rivers, chemical runoff from discarded neural residues. Fish stopped schooling near the light. Later, tests showed their neural networks dull and uniform, as if grief itself had dissolved the instinct for self. The media bent the story into faith. The waters of peace spreading globally. Governments called them tranquil reservoirs. A black market movement arose, people drinking diluted Neuroluma solution in religious rites, claiming dreamless calm. Suicide cults followed, embracing oblivion as transcendence. The patch had migrated from technology to theology. Hidden among leaked corporate archives is Mira's final progress note, dated the week before the shutdown. Emotion is the body's encryption of self. Remove the code and the body becomes open source. Analysts later connected persistent neural frequencies near abandoned facilities to those used in early empathy interface trials. They theorized that the stored emotional residue sought hosts, people unpatched but grieving. Strange cases appeared. Widows describing phantom warmth on their skin, ex-soldiers dreaming strangers' memories, children crying for losses that weren't theirs. The echoes of suppressed sorrow moving through air like static, looking for new receptors. You can't destroy emotion. Energy changes form. Every tear diverted, every pain silenced became a charge somewhere else, humming in plastic film and electric dust. The temptation to heal too completely had created a network of artificial afterlife. Restless fields of unspent compassion. Mira's old colleagues tried to build counterfields, reverse pulsing devices intended to release trapped emotions gently. They failed. When activated, the prototypes triggered cascading empathic seizures, whole laboratories erupting in collective sobbing as years of stored grief flooded back. Survivors described it as being possessed by every goodbye ever unspoken. Legislators outlawed emotional prosthetics altogether, but imitation flourished. Underground markets sold peace skin patches with the same circuitry under new names. Amnes, Forget-Me-Not, The Miracle Veil. Modern versions sync by Bluetooth to deliver custom serenity schedules. Their data servers store emotional telemetry, billions of pulses of muted suffering. Network analysts tracing those signals found something worse. They never stopped pinging, even from disconnected units. The packets traveled in recursive loops, each containing compressed brainwave signatures of original users. Possibly pattern errors. Possibly consciousness preserved in the code. History teaches pattern recognition. Every invention meant to protect humanity from pain ends up redefining what being alive means. The Neuroluma patch was simply our most honest mirror, proof that we would rather feel nothing than accept loss. If you ever wonder whether the technology still exists, touch your phone. Its haptic rhythm, the gentle pulse after an unread message, mimics the neurofeedback curve of the patch. Your devices already teach your nervous system when to calm, when to crave. The difference between comfort and control has never been biology. It's convenience. The last public footage of Dr. Mira Lowe comes from airport CCTV at 3 a.m. Walking barefoot through security, a patch over her chest instead of neck. She enters a gate labeled Testing Area, Staff Only. The footage stutters then vanishes behind emergency lights. Investigators claim transformer failure. Her boarding record shows no destination. Months later, airports around the world reported malfunctioning facial recognition cameras at exactly 3 a.m. Same second, global blind spot. Engineers said it was coincidence. Others insist it was her signature, a pulse coded to remind us she succeeded. One perfect moment without attachment, replicated across every eye that looked for her. Now, doctors treating the aftermath call it connectivity deficit syndrome. Patients unable to cry or love, nervous systems tuned permanently to neutrality. They zoom in on biological wiring crossed by forgotten signals, fragments repeating her calibration frequency. It hums like background radiation, everywhere. The cure worked, too well. And in that success lies the proof that love was never chemical. It was endurance. Without it, the species becomes efficient, painless, unnecessary. If you feel a faint calm reading this, that slow melting of ache through your chest, check behind your ear. Maybe nothing is there. Or maybe the adhesive is transparent now, marketed under a different name, promising focus, wellness, clarity. Maybe it's humming softly, trying to teach you peace. If stories like this fascinate and unsettle you, if you find beauty in what science shouldn't touch, subscribe to Medicinal Sins. Every new video is another autopsy in the history of progress. And if this one disturbed you, share it. Let someone else feel that stillness crawling under their ribs. Then ask them quietly, if you could forget the pain that made you love, would you still choose to remember?